I want to talk a little bit more about precomposing and nesting. So for that, I'm going to go ahead to the project panel and I'll create a new composition, which can be anything. NTSC DV is fine, and I'll just name it Precompose. And in here, I can have any kind of animation I want, so I'm just going to have a little ball going left to right, for example. P for position, I'll change tools here, and I'll just animate this. Yeah, and I'll move it up. Yeah, and I'll move it over here. And maybe here. And finally, I'm going to go back to the middle. If I do a RAM preview, you're going to see that in some parts of the animation, the edges of the ball disappear to the top and to the side and the bottom of the composition. If I want to have more graphics moving very similarly to what this one is moving, I could precompose. So let me go ahead and precompose this particular layer. I can select it and use the shortcut, which is Shift-Command-C for the Mac, Shift-Control-C for Windows. I'll just name it Ball. Look at the icon right here in the timeline. It looks like a composition icon right here in the project panel. See, it's the same type, indicating that this is a precomposed or nested composition. So precomposing is exactly the same thing as creating a new composition and then dragging the composition from the project panel into the new composition. So it saves us one step, which is why it's so convenient to use, but in essence it's the same thing. So I can reduce the scale of this precomposed layer, S for scale, and notice that the edges of the ball are still disappearing on what were the edges of the original composition. In the switches column, I can click on the collapse transformation icon, and that will prevent those pixels from disappearing. And as you can see, now we can see the entire ball at all times. I can now duplicate this layer. Control or Command D is the shortcut. And I'll do it several times. And I can change the scale of all of these. I'll select all of them, press S for scale. And I'll just make some of them larger. Something like that. Let's go ahead and preview that. I'm going to adjust the scale of this one. Maybe a little bit smaller. There you go. I can also blur some of them, and I can change their color. Let's change some of the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a CC toner effect. And there it is. I'll apply it to this one, where the highlight is going to be maybe blue. Now to this one, where the highlight can be yellow or yellowish. Maybe green for this one. And there you go. Now all of my layers are different colors. And I'll perform a RAM preview. And there you go. I can now precompose all of these. So I'll select all of these layers and use the shortcut Shift-Command-C for the Mac, Shift-Control-C for Windows. And I'll precompose it, and I'll just call it balls. And now this is just like one layer. I'm going to duplicate this layer. maybe do it several times. And I can offset them in time if I need to, so that they come in one slightly after the other. And you get the idea. For creating compositions that have different elements that do the same thing, precomposing is really very useful. And of course, we already saw how useful it was for compound effects.